Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Broken by Concept, episode 238. Now, I want to kick it off with this Reddit post, very recent. It was on the front page of Reddit. It was titled, I paid for coaching in mid lane. Here is my takeaway with laning phase. So, the start of this says, mid lane is a turn-based game. League of Legends is a turn-based game. People don't really think of it that way, but once you do, everything starts making more sense. Let's say you shove the wave, that's a turn. Now your opponent has to respond. Most of the time, they're going to clear the wave you just pushed in. That means it's your turn to do something. So what do? You have options. You can base, take plates, roam, fight with your jungler. But here's where a lot of players screw up. You should never try to take multiple turns at once. For example, you shove the wave, turn 1, you get plates, turn 2, you base, turn 3. If you take both turn 2 and turn 3 in the same turn, you're overstaying unless you're smurfing and absolutely know that you can get away with it. You're setting yourself up to be punished. Okay, so in your experience, Nathan, what do you think about it? Do you agree, not agree? And do you like thinking of the game of League like this?
I think it's a great start. It's a great baseline. It's a great way to sort of wake people up a little bit instead of thinking, this is a MOBA, this is the way League works, rather than... I feel like a lot of the time when I'm trying to do my coaching sessions, I'm trying to prevent people from chasing low HP targets and, overstaying, especially junglers. We're very good at doing objectives when you should be letting your team reset and not forcing your Jinx ADC to screw up her tempo and come and do the dragon. It's a good starting point to start. And he literally said this. He said, this has changed the way that he said, everything starts making more sense when you start viewing the game in terms of a turn-based game. So... yeah, I think this is really important to get people thinking about the amount of plays they're making in a turn. I guess it's a really good way to break that up is like, what is my base time or what is my recess? But obviously, League is still a very mechanical-based game still, so this is not going to solve everyone's problems. It's not like, yeah, hey, Curtis and Nathan said, and this post, oh, it's a turn-based game. That's what I miss in your gameplay. You might not feel any. That's the thing about that can be hard about understanding this concept as well about the turn-based game is that sometimes you don't see it. You don't see the effect of it at all. And who knows? Maybe you have a perfect push wave and you don't oversave a place, you reset, you come back on the map and some weird fight happens and then you die. You're not going to think, oh, it was because I did, I followed this turn-based model. It's like, it's just one aspect of the game. How do you think about it? Is that how you think about it? Or you think that the game is this entire concept of your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn?
Yeah, so I think there are certain players that benefit from having League broken down like this. I think there are many players that would hear this and it would just be like, oh, well, that doesn't really... Again, they already understood that intuitively.
It's like obvious.
It was kind of obvious to them. Other people, maybe not so. I will say, though, I am guilty of using this kind of language. I've kind of maybe used chess, an example, where like you make a turn, they make a turn, that sort of thing. And it is very helpful. I will say, to play devil's advocate, though, it is a generalization in League to view it like a turn-based game. And I think the better way to explain this, and this is the way I've kind of tried to use it in more practical terms, Nathan, I said, let's break down what the best player, let's break down what the best player in the world does. Let's take Chovy, for example, right? And this is what I say. This is literally what he does in his solo queue. He will take a good trade. He will use that good trade to get control over the wave. And then he'll use that control over the wave to ensure that he has first move to any play that happens in the river. With this good vision, he can posture up more aggressively and he can take better quality trades. And then because he's taken maybe a few small trades, the enemy has to go back to base before him. So he gets to stay for maybe 1 or 2 more waves. So then on his recall, he gets a better quality base than the opposition. So he might come back with an additional Darksteel or an Am Tomb or a Longsword. Now he has that item advantage. So he can take better trades again. He's literally got more stats. So with those better trades again, he forces them out again. And basically what happens, it's the incremental...
That's what you're saying. It's all the little things. And now you're talking more about small wins, small advantage. So that's what League at the highest level is the very small little things that are leading to bigger things.
I don't even think it's...
And that's not turn. You don't really think of it in terms of turn.
I think it's healthier.
Turn is like big moment thing. Like it's not Yeah, it's not it's literally just one aspect of the game, and what you're just explaining there is just like, you know, the small wins mindset, which sort of relates to the turn a little bit. So it does relate
to it.
But turn can be really, it's like, I get the kill and then I base, but there's so much more that goes into like getting that kill or getting
exactly
that.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel as though for some people they would want to, it's better to explain it more in terms of practicality, like what do the small wins look like? And I do think though, I want to push back a little bit with what you said. You said small wins, that's what the game looks like at the highest level. I will actually say that's what League looks like at every level.
That's true, yes.
It's just not as obvious.
In higher elo, it's more obvious, and I guess
the only thing you can do.
Yeah, so it's the only way you can get advantage because everyone's playing great.
You're not going to randomly solo kill someone, right? No. It's going to be the
You have to work hard for it.
You have to work hard for advantages. Exactly right. Whereas in the lower elo brackets,
people can make mistakes and they give you advantages all the time.
Exactly right. You don't have to sweat that hard for advantages.
Yeah.
But I think the way you would want to view it though, because ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to use small advantages to turn it into more advantages, and you're trying to build them up and stack them up over time to create big wins. So it's like small trade, like I said, and then you get an advantageous reset that gives you first move into the river, or you have tempo, and then you can get to those grubs first, or you can win that 2v2, or you can win that team fight eventually. And
another example there is like playing a weaker scaling champion. Like you're like minimizing, like you're just trying to like not die and farm really well. So you can like the big win is like 10, 15 minutes later, you know, which is, it depends on the champion. Like that trophy example, that's more of like a, you know, we're talking about probably like a 1 or 2 minute window, right? Or maybe even 3 minute, but for some champs and the way you're playing the game or certain matchups is just like, let's say you're playing bot lane, Jinx Lulu versus Draven, you know, Draven Thresh or whatever it is. Like you're in every little thing that you do, you're minimizing to try and get that advantage where you're just outscaled, right? So it's actually really complex. There's so many like variables that go into it, right?
Yeah, and the reason I actually wanted to highlight this as well was I had a review this week, Nathan, with I think it was a gold player, and even platinum, and their mindset was, I've got this lead, I deserve to be able to use this lead to get some big shit done. It's like I'm 1-0 or 2-0. Surely now I can just run around the map killing everyone. It's almost as if they feel like, I've done my job now. I'm already fed. I've done my job. Now, how can I win the game now? But that's not really how you think about League. It's like, you're never really going to be in a position where you can just like win the game. It's like, okay, I've got a lead. I need to continue to utilize my lead to get more farm, to take more small incremental advantages. And then eventually that will lead to big things. But I almost view League in this way where it's like there's a very big difference between brute forcing plays and then creating the conditions for favorable plays. And that's what League really is. It's about setting yourself up for favorable conditions. And when the more favorable conditions are created, the more opportunities are created, therefore the game kind of wins itself. That's actually how I view League. It's like the game literally wins itself. If I'm shoving out my waves properly, I'm aware of my jungler's location, I'm intentional about neutral objectives, I'm playing in accordance with my champ's identity, I do all these things in isolation, and then magically
the game comes together.
The game kind of comes together. Yeah. That's what League really is. And if you want to, and again, it has elements of the turn-based aspect, but there are many other elements that I feel like it can confuse you to look at the game as a turn-based game as well, right? Because you think about it, let's take, like, again, a random example in lane. You take a good trade, and you're thinking, well, I shouldn't be able to do this. This is illegal. Like, I've maybe taken a good trade, and I'm poking them under tower. Why, you know, sometimes you can do that. It's like you're versing a low-threat jungler. They've just misplayed. You're getting good trade after good trade. It's like, where's the turn in this? There is no turn, you know what I mean? Like, so I think, yes, at a high level, it's true, but it can be a little bit esoteric, you know?
I think, like, something that's important, as we always say, is just to get specific with it, right? Like, one aspect of the turn-based game that I stand by and I talk about all the time is, like, getting back to waves when they're in neutral state in the mid game. Like, that is usually a good thing. You can break the rules, but that is usually a good thing. Another thing is, if you get a solo kill in lane or a 2v2 kill on bot lane, you want to synchronize your reset with the enemy's death timer if you have a lot of gold in your pocket. These are all like turn-based concepts that you want to apply a lot of the time, but yeah, you can't apply it to everything for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even Curtis didn't read this for the post, but it goes on to say why taking multiple turns is a mistake. And it goes like, your base gets stopped. You lose control of a wave. You miss an entire wave. Like, again, these are like big sort of moments in the game that is skipping over all those little details around, you know, why this may be the case. But again, like, I think that it's a great concept, it really shakes people a bit out of that mindset of like how League works and the, you know, let's not just run around, chase kills and like oversell on the map and get yourself and your team killed. It's sort of just the general sort of like baseline. It's like, you should think about this concept, apply this to your reviews, then you can get a little bit, maybe a bit more deeper, and then you can explore these things a little bit more.
Yeah, it reminds me, sorry, Curtis, it reminds me a bit of like when you were playing top lane, Nathan, when you would, that concept of getting ahead, like you get a solo kill, you come back to lane, and then the best thing to do is like just stay calm and just slow build a big wave into your opponent and only trade if they come into you. Just that concept blows people's minds because a lot of people, when they're ahead, they come to lane and they just want to get messy.
Kill them. I don't care about the wave at all. Just kill,
Yeah.
and then you heavy trade a little bit, and then you might be winning the trades, but then now you're giving the enemy jungler an opportunity or the mid laner, and then it's just a mess. It's not controlled.
Exactly.
It's not controlled, consistent gameplay.
That like brief little 30-minute of downtime when you're ahead wins games. 100%.
It does, yeah, it really does. Just calming things down for a little bit. Let's just relax, play a structure. I always say, when you're behind, that's when you want to do chaotic things and throw the enemy off of their mental state. When you're ahead, you actually do way less to win the game.
Yeah, it's like Curtis said, the game wins itself at that point.
Yes, by doing all the little basics and the fundamentals.
Now, okay, so as we go through this post, the question that I want you guys to both have in your back of your minds, Charlie and Nathan, is what rank is this client? And because like this person, you know, it seems like they were really happy with their coaching session, but I would argue that a lot of the things that are covered in here can also be just massively overcomplicating and putting attention in areas that they shouldn't really necessarily be putting attention towards. So the kind of post goes on to say why wave control is everything. And again, this is specifically about mid lane, guys. So it's, again, just for the context. It says, it's insane how many opportunities just come to you if you control the wave. If you understand wave states, you'll feel like the game is playing itself. The first 3 waves are the most important in the entire game. Melee versus melee. Try to hit level 2 first. Range v range. Same thing. Whoever gets level 2 first can dictate the lane. Melee versus range. Melee should almost always let the wave push into them. Safely CS waves 2 and 3 under tower, then bounce back 4 for a reset. If you're ranged, punish them while trying to shove. Then when the wave bounces back, run them down when you've got a stacked wave. So,
interesting.
I don't really know how to respond to this when I read this, because it's like I don't agree. I just don't agree with this. In mid lane specifically, I don't think the first 3 waves are overly that important.
Dude, okay, so the first 3 wave thing is blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
You see the coach in Buzz, they spent 20 minutes on it, right?
Like, let me just draw on the map. I'll circle minions with my little epic pen. I'll tell you how to push the first 3 waves.
Here's the theory of the matchup.
Like, mate, like you can come into lane with a plan, but at the end of the day, the second someone mispositions slightly, we're in Fairyland already. You have to trade reactively. Like, so much can happen.
I want to use an example. So I did an Nefiri guide that's coming out soon in the MLA, and I literally go through 2 examples where I literally grief the wave, but I still do well in the lane because I land my Qs. It was a great, I objectively shouldn't be shoving the wave in these 2 matchups. It was like I was playing Nefiri into like there were 2 different mages, I think it was. And they got in my Q range, and I landed a Q1, Q2 and chunked them to a quarter HP, but now my wave's in a bit of a shitty location. But in the grand scheme of things, it's fine. Yeah, the wave's a bit uncomfortable. I can shove it out, let it come back out. It's not the end of the world. Like, I feel as though, again, wave control isn't everything. It's nice to be intentional with your waves. What's way more important is trades. Now, there are particular champions that require particular wave sets, or there are particular matchups that are very finicky with waves, right? If you're playing Yasuo, yes, wave management can be quite big, because getting the wave back on your side in certain matchups and not having the wave stuck outside the enemy's tower, that's very impactful. Or if you're playing Fizz, you don't want to just permanently shove because you do want the wave on your side. So there are champions that will get a lot of value from wave management, and there's a hell of a lot of champions that won't get a lot of value from wave management. And if I'm playing Galio, I don't really give a shit. If I just land my Qs, take good trades, I actually don't give a crap really about the wave state. It could be anywhere. I can shove it out from any location. I'm fine with it. Neutral state, shoving on my side, couldn't really care less, to be honest. So my point is that, yes, wave control, it's just, again, I just don't like the language being used here, is my main point.
It's just sexy to think about the first 3 ways. It's like, I just want to be Chovy and just do the perfect 3 stack and to get a base for a cull, come back to lane.
And I think specifically nowadays as well, with the minion durability changes and home guards, wave management in mid specifically, it's not that significant. You know, unless you're getting to the higher ranks where, you know,
all the 1%.
The 1%
I'm just trying to think about my reviews, and even in my games, like, mid is not out of control. Like, I've never versed a laner who's played the first 3 waves like perfectly, and now like the game's over, the game's out of control. Like, there's so much more that goes into a game. There's so many bigger 20%ers that like I'm gonna start guessing this guy's rank already. Goes.
I've not. Yeah. What do you think?
I
so
reckon. I mean, I can sort of. I know that people who tend to get coaching are probably more so. I mean, this guy's a mid laner, so I guess it could be any rank, but I reckon around a platinum emerald, I would
Really?
say.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my guess.
I think we'll keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Next one, cannon waves. Don't shove early. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people shoving cannon waves early game. You almost never want to do this. Instead, slow push it, last hit it, build up a big wave, then crash it, blah, 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 blah. If you need a base, it's a free base. If you're full HP, full mana, think about how to use that next turn.
That's crazy to me. Like, why? How about shove the wave if it's correct, and then slow build it if it's correct? Like, doesn't it just depend?
It depends, right? If my jungler or something's going on in the river and it's a cannon, sometimes...
What if I'm 1 HP and I need a base?
Yeah, I will say, again, sure. I don't mind this. I think it's better than the last segment. Like, I do think hard shoving cannons is not a great habit to get into. Is it one of the biggest mistakes I see in my coaching sessions? No. I just think, again, what's more important is the intention. It's like, well, what value are we going to get from hard shoving this wave? So, okay, look, I get this one. I think not shoving cannon waves it's up there, but it's not a giant thing. And then...
Yeah, because he said it's one of the biggest mistakes I see.
I wouldn't say it's really one of the biggest mistakes. And then the next one is, what's your plan? Whenever you have a free turn, your first thought should be, can I kill my laner? If yes, great. Try to do it when the wave is stacked. Even if you die 1 for 1, you're still denying farm. If I can't kill them, what else can I do? And the simplest option is deep vision. If you place vision on a free turn, then the next time you get one, you can actually use it, roam, first move to it. Yeah, so look, I think getting vision, if you can't kill your laner, is a great thing to do. Having always a ward out and warding and leaning is excellent. I will say, the whole thing about can I kill my laner, like, let's do it and make sure the wave is, try to do it when the wave's stacked. It's like a lot of the time, if you can kill your laner, you're not really going to have a choice about when you can kill them. It's very rare that I can think, okay, I can kill them anytime here. I'm going to make sure the wave's stacked. I would say that's very, very, very rare that happens. But yes, objectively, if you are in that scenario, great. Sure, I think it's okay advice. This last point here, have a plan for every matchup. I can't emphasize this enough. The first 3 waves set up everything. If you're not following the melee versus melee or melee versus range basics I just described, it probably means you don't really know what you're doing in lane. Before I load into a game, I already know exactly what my plan is for every matchup. That means once the lane starts, I'm not wasting brain power making big decisions. I'm focusing on executing my wave management plan, last hitting, poking, and controlling waves. That's the difference between reacting to the game and playing the game on your own terms. I mean, I'll be honest, you don't come into a lot of matchups. I don't even know fully the way the waves are going to play out. I actually think more about the trades. And so waves, a lot of the time, it's like, it's a means to an end in the sense that if I'm playing, again, let's talk specific. If I'm playing Lysandra, let's say who's traditionally a weak laner, into another mage, let's say an Orianna, the wave can play out many different ways. I don't know what the Orianna is going to... Is the Orianna going to auto-attack the wave and try to hard shove me in which case I might have to be a little bit respectful. Are they going to get hit by all my Qs and not going to auto the wave where I can actually keep the wave neutral? Or are they actually going to just miss their Qs? They're going to not be intentional about shoving the wave and I'm going to get shoved. I have no fucking idea. I don't know what they're going to do. Right? I don't know. And I literally played a matchup versus Hui, and I was able to keep the wave, actually somewhat get the shove into a Hui level 1, because I dodged the Hui abilities. They didn't auto-attack the wave. But that could play out so many different ways. I don't know. Right? So my point is that I think that as long as you're adapting to what's happening with the wave, you're not permanently shoving waves, you can be pretty flexible with waves. And what matters more is, again, the underlying ability usage and understanding how the champ kits fundamentally interact. And like, I think more and more, especially nowadays with the wave changes, waves are a byproduct of, like, they're a tool that you use to take better quality trades rather than you take trades to manage the wave. It's the other way around. So I think if I don't know what rank this person is.
I actually just found it. I scrolled down.
I think I know his rank.
What's your guess?
The way that he's speaking, I assume it's a he, but the way they're speaking, Emerald. It's just written. Emerald is written all over this.
Wow, that's great.
Am I right?
It's literally Emerald. He
Yeah.
said, I was Emerald and now Diamond after 4 sessions and 4 weeks of putting this advice into practice.
Yeah, because I can tell he's Emerald because you wouldn't be able to get a benefit from this if you didn't have the underlying traits.
That's true.
This would be
Correct.
useless for any player below this
Yes.
because if you're like a gold or silver player, you probably don't have the trades down pat. You probably don't even know what all the champions do, so you can't even think of a plan to go into the matchups. So you need to actually be able to play trades because Curtis is right. And I noticed this in bot lane as well. Like all of this stuff is rendered completely useless if you don't know what sort of trades your champ wants to take. Just flat out.
Yep.
Completely useless.
So yeah, you're absolutely spot on. And this is the thing, is that there are players that would get value from this, and it's a very it's a particular type of
player,
client.
yeah.
It's a very particular, and this is the thing. It's like what this post can be the most useful, but the most detrimental in the league community. You could get let's say a silver player reading this, thinking, "Oh my god, this is what I needed." And they would try to do this, and it completely throws them off course. This is not where they should be directing their attention whatsoever. They just need to get better at trading. They have no champ mastery. They don't know how champ kits interact. They're not actually fighting well and trading well. So like, it's almost as if like these posts are so sexy. They're so neat and tidy and
this guy, think about him making this post. He's so confident. It's like, this is what made me climb.
Yeah.
This is me, Emerald to Diamond before. You guys should all do this.
And
as
he
well.
doesn't mean bad. I don't think this guy has bad intention
Of
with
course
the post.
not, no.
But it's
This could help people in exactly his situation
Yes.
as well. Like, again, Emerald play and stuff like that. They need to start polishing up their gameplay a bit. Let's not chase for kills. Let's not think about the game as Call of Duty.
I think coaching has a bad rep with certain people. Certain people think coaching is useless, and for them, and they're kind of right. For certain people, this sort of advice is literally useless, if anything, detrimental. So, like, I feel as though coaching is one of those things where it's like, maybe the coach had the master grand plan, knew this is exactly what this client needed, but this client has gone and now made this Reddit post and could be gaslighting, 50% of the league community. So I'm really conflicted when I read these posts, and I think it's just a great reminder for the BBC community is that all advice should be taken with a grain of salt, and you should always process information based on what is most relevant for me and my experience, where I'm at in my journey. What sort of information do I need to learn more about? Am I already strong with the bigger picture part of the game and I need to improve my fighting, or vice versa? You need to be really intentional about what is missing in your play. What do you need to hear?
Well, how do they know what they need to hear, Curtis? Like, the way that I'll think about it is like, okay, I'm looking at a bunch of educational content. I see this. Okay, I'm going to just have a crack at this a little bit. I'm not really getting at stuff like that.
True.
Okay, this is something that I'm aware of, interested in. This might click for me a while, and then I'm going to go try the next thing. And then now I'm going to go study a one trick. And then now, like, that's, I guess, what a lot of our process was when we were climbing, I guess. It's just like, you're just throwing a lot of shit at the wall.
Just try it out,
Yeah,
I
just
guess.
trying out,
True.
right? Like,
True.
like, you're not going to have these, no one climbs in league, and even in terms of with us with coaching, like having like a clean plan that's just going to be, okay, you do this and then you just start going up perfectly, right? League journey's a mess, right? Different things click at different times. You always use the electrical circuit analogy. I love that. Where like, you might not get any results, or the game might not understand into one thing. Maybe this is the one thing that this guy needed for his electrical circuit to come together, right? So it all, like this, it just varies so much from iron, gold player to like a, platinum player. There's a difference between a platinum player that's played for 10 years. There's a difference between a platinum player that's just started, who's like a one trick. There's just, you just got to have a crack and just try out a bunch of things.
Yeah, no, well said. Moving on. I wanted to quickly touch on this interesting little review I did today, quickly with AJ. So AJ is a challenger player. NNA.
Isn't he the best Yone, NA?
One of the best Yones in NNA. And he is a coach in the MLA as well. And sometimes we work together and we kind of help each other out personally, with our gameplay. And he brought this interesting VOD. He said, I versed this player, Curtis, and he sent me these 2 early lane phases. And he said, I walked away from these games feeling very overwhelmed. He's like, he's typically AJ's quite a good mechanical player. And he walked away from this lane feeling like I got kind of gapped. I feel like I couldn't take good trades. I feel like I got outplayed mechanically. Something didn't feel right? So we sat down, brought up the VOD, got into the details. And the first matchup that we looked at was an Aurora v Jace. And basically, I don't want to get too nitty gritty here, but at a high level, what this player, the way the Jace was playing, was that you could tell that he was overwhelming all of his mental stack with trading. He was going all in, deep. Like, I'm going to try to min-max my spacing. I'm gonna fake every single last hit. I'm gonna be awkward to hit abilities. You can tell that he was allocating 110% energy on just simple trading, micro mechanics, all that stuff. And as a result, this guy was able to take great trades. And AJ was feeling very flustered because AJ in the game was thinking about the jungler location. He's thinking about, can I even take this trade? He's thinking about the bigger picture of the game. And I said to AJ, I laid it all out there. I said, mate, this trade that this Jace did makes no sense. He completely flipped the trade. He had no vision on where the Xin Zhao was. He could have easily got ganked here. And it was just, and honestly, if he took this trade 2 seconds later, he would have died to this gank. And he's got away with it. And I said to AJ, look, you're going to verse players like this. There are players who climb, and that is the way they go about their journey. They're going to have these games where they'll pop off, and they win by basically psyching out their opponent. And there is this archetype. They have them in O's. They have them in all servers. You see them a lot. I would say they can exist more in, I would say, in NA and probably in O's rather than EU and China and stuff, because you just won't get away with it because the junglers are typically more aggressive and the games are more, people know how to gank and influence mid more in EU and China and Korea. But nonetheless, they exist. And basically what I said to AJ, I said, this player, you're seeing him in a game where he gets away with it. He just got away with this. In another game, this guy could go 0-7. And you're just not going to see that. You're just happened to be in a game where your jungler just unlucky, was in the wrong place, wrong time. This guy got away with it. And I feel as though this is a really tough pill for people to swallow. And in this case, AJ is very high, incredibly smart player, amazing coach. And even he kind of missed this. And I think this applies to every rank and every person. You are going to verse players that are doing things that are highly illegal. But it just so happens you're only versing this player in one game. You don't get to see every player's inconsistencies.
And how they ruin the game with that play the next game.
Exactly right. And we might see someone have the luckiest game of their life. It happens. You're gonna have lucky games as well. The stars are gonna align. No one's gonna influence your lane. You're gonna be stuck in this isolated 1v1, and you can get away with inconsistent gameplay in the short term. You can get away with it. It doesn't work in the long run. You're not going to be a consistent player. You will cap out. And that guy, he's over leveraging his mechanics and propping up, and he's kind of intimidating the lane opponent so much that he just frustrates the lane opponent. How is this guy able to do that? And that's why he's playing lane bully champions, but the Grasp Jace, these people like in O's, they play Kate mid and all these like bullshit champions that like if they make one mistake, they lose the game. But that's the way they're wanting to play. That's the skill set they've developed. That's the way they interpret League of Legends. And it's a constant reminder that there are so many ways to climb in League, and people forget this. There is no such thing as a 100 LP master tier player that there's like a...
This is their skills, and everyone's the same, like every little skill and fundamentals on the same level. Exactly right.
The metaphor or the real life comparison that I would use, Nathan, is in powerlifting tournaments, you have basically you have like multiple exercises that you have to do. So you have like a bench press and like a squat and like a deadlift, right? And they total, right? They total your thing. Right, so you can have one person that has a really good bench press, but then a shitty deadlift, and they optimize for one exercise over the other, but they can have like a similar total. In League, that's exactly the same way. That guy has over-indexed in one particular aspect of his play, and then he's very low in these other areas.
And then he gets a net, that's his LP's rank at the end of that.
And this is why in League, you might actually just match up very poorly with particular players.
Yes.
And so that person who's over-indexing in the mechanical play, if you are quite weak in your early laning and you're not good in maybe the micro and the spacing and tethering, he can shut you down so much that he can cover his other weaknesses. Now, you're going to match really well into other players, you're going to match very poorly into other players, and you're just going to be kind of butting heads and even into other players. You just need to have a deep respect. I guess the message that I'm trying to get across here is that you don't know what sort of player you're going to deal with, and there's lessons to be learned from every player that you deal with, and there is no such thing as a cookie cutter way to get to a rank. This is why it's not about the LP. It's it's about the way you get your LP. It's about the skills that you're developing in each and every game. I thought that was just an interesting little kind of story there.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think about the concept of bluffing? Because this is something that comes up specifically in the support role. Supports love to bluff. They will walk at you pretending that there's a gank coming and there won't be. They'll sometimes push in a side of the map for vision when they're on their own, and they'll just be like positioning as if they've got their whole team behind them, but no one's there. Like I see this a lot from very, very good support players, like challenger support players.
Yeah, because you know what bluffing does? It removes my turn. which
Yeah.
just is so bad. It's really annoying. Like so, and then think about that's a huge advantage they've got. If they show up in a place and they're playing over aggressive, it's like, wait, I thought I could have done that. This guy's played like a psychopath. What did I just miss something here? It also overwhelms my
I'll do
mental
it sometimes
stack.
as well. I'll bluff a mid wave sometimes. If my team's in base and I think, okay, I'm just going to flip it. Let's just bluff this mid wave, and I can clear a mid wave that I otherwise couldn't because I just.
I mean, it depends on the level that you're playing. They'll just go on you. A gold like Nocturne will just ult you
This is
regardless, right? So it sort of depends.
Yeah.
I think this is more of a high elo.
But I brought it up because I think like it's a skill set and it's intuition, knowing when you can and can't bluff, and I think it's a good skill to have when you go up.
I'll do that in the side lane sometimes. I'll bluff, and then I'll see how they respond. And if
Yeah.
they act defensive, then I'll just keep going.
Yep.
But if they fight back, I'm like, all right, I'm bluffing.
So you're talking about like you'll start walking ahead of the wave and like pretend that you're the jungler's ganking or something.
No. So this is what I do
do?
specifically all the time, right? Because getting side lane shove in mid game as any mid laner
so
is
important,
like
yeah.
so important,
Yeah, it's
right?
huge.
So let's say I'm deploying on the map off just maybe there's like a team fight, and I don't know where their jungler is pathed, and maybe my jungler's pathed on the other side of the map. Their jungler could have pathed to my side, or maybe they're on the other side. I'll walk up if the guy's already there, and then based off the way that guy just fights on the wave, positions on the wave, he responds to my presence. Either I will just be like, okay, I know this the jungler can't be there. I can actually push that guy if the wave gets shoved and move, or I'll be like, all right. Yeah, you're right. My jungler's not here. Your jungler probably is there. So I'm just going to give you
me.
You got me. Exactly right. And that's huge.
A single back click actually gives you so much information in those
It does.
situations.
Is that right?
When you
Yeah.
rock up and you see them on the wave and they just
Yeah.
step behind, you're like, you shouldn't be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know that's what someone playing like not high intensity autopilot is, because those very rigid movements, like people go into sometimes the game. And I'm assuming these situations where they're just like on the auto, it's like, oh, my jungler's not here. I'm just gonna, I know I can't fight, so I'm just gonna click back a bunch of the time.
Yep.
That's sort of like lazy gameplay. I guess that's again with the bluffing sort of the next level. It's like, you know, make it a little bit hard make them sweat to think whether the jungler might be there. I feel like Diamond Master players, this is where the next level they struggle with that. It's too rigid.
They're too rigid.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw him under the bus here. I had a review this week with Andrew. He was the one I was talking off camera about. I just roasted him. He brought
Nice.
this game, and he actually popped off in the early lane.
Yeah.
He was like 3-0 as Pantheon. And he played Pantheon mid. And we got into the mid game, and I just started obliterating him because I said, mate, like, you're just so inefficient. Like, and I started just being like, mate, you could shove this wave, but you didn't. And why did you go to this play? You have 6 scrubs in your back pocket. Who cares if your 80 carry dies here? You could go and get this tier 2. Or the play's done, reset. Why are you just sitting here throwing a spear at this guy? You've wasted 5 seconds here, 4 seconds here, 5 seconds here.
Oh.
And I'm like, you're incapable. I'm going to say you're incapable of climbing until you fix this. You need to raise your standards in terms of how efficient you are on the map. And this is why one of the many reasons why Master players get stuck in Master, because it's not about the big moments. It's about the small transitions, and every second counts.
Yes.
Every second counts. That is the difference between moving into the mid game and having like 3 or 4 additional waves over your counterpart, which adds up, and it adds up again and again and again and again. When I verse a low Master tier player, they're just so inefficient.
It's just slow.
Rigid, obvious, and they're willing. They don't have the mindset of, okay, so this is the biggest mindset shift. I sacked this wave to go to this play. Your mindset needs to be, how could I have got this wave and made the play? Or was it even worth it for me to go for that play? You need to be obsessed with every single wave. Every single wave. You can't just skip a wave. You can't be content with sacking a wave. Every wave is like a stab in the heart. That is a solo laner. That's what you need to adopt as a solo laner. Or even an AD carry.
AD carry too. I see it
Exact same
so
thing.
often in reviews where people push mid, rotate to a side, and they full rotate, and then the enemy team are on mid, and they're just pushing down
Yeah,
mid. And
that's
you're like,
just
hands
slow.
up the keyboard, like, God damn it, like, I messed up. I'm not back on the mid wave.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I think it's the what's next mindset, which helps people a lot with that problem, Curtis, where literally, as the play is ending, you have to already be thinking about what's next. It's, like, really powerful.
And it's about, like I said, just with Andrew, it's just you just got to raise your standards in terms of how efficient you're going to be. You cannot be content with losing a wave. That's just the reality. If you want to push the Grandmaster Challenger, that's what you're going to have to do. That's simple. Your fighting's fine. You know how to play your champion. Your laning phase is fine. Your mid game is just dog shit.
Let's step it up, Andrew.
Step it up, Andrew.
Come on, Andrew. Let's push.
On on that bluffing thing, just crossed my mind. There was another play as well that we're doing the Jace guide, and his jungler was like dying in this scenario, and he literally and the enemy were TPing in. He walked up, knowing that he couldn't really offer anything, pretending that he was going to go in to create space or try to disincentivize the enemy from killing his jungler. And when I initially watched the play, I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you just disengaging and resetting? He's like, oh no, but if I walk up here, I can kind of screw with the enemy. There's so many levels to the game. That's what I mean. Like, if you're thinking in this rigid way, black and white, we lose the fight, I can't do anything, I'm just going to run away. You got to remember, the enemy a lot of the time don't know the full picture. They don't know exactly what you're thinking. You can't automatically assume that they know what you can and can't do.
Because of Fog of War.
But also, they don't have your levels of Chant Mastery.
No, that's true. Curtis, this is so funny you bring this up because I've been having quite a bit of success recently, and part of it has been like winning 4v5 fights. Winning, navigating a 3v5 fight if I'm playing like a Varus and I just annoy them. There's like this narrative that you have to kind of trade every objective. Like if a dragon's going down, you should be on the opposite side of the map. Well, how about if I'm just in your face throwing Varus Qs at you while you're doing the dragon and making it so I'm canceling your bases after the dragon. I'm like really screwing with your tempo. Like knowing when you can win a fight down numbers is actually so important, I feel, in solo queue when there's so many numbers disadvantage.
I think
fights.
Especially nowadays with Atakhan. I think that's an incredibly...
That's exactly what I mean. Atakhan fights, I've won a lot of 3v5s around Atakhan.
So I have a question for you then, because the jungler's job is sort of the one that needs to identify beforehand whether we're trading, because it's very quick. So you pin the jungler to stay and fight, or you... Because
sometimes,
how are you doing that?
I think a lot of the junglers in my games kind of don't just like giving objectives.
So they're just meandering around.
It might have been a bit of an adaptation on my end. Like they're going to contest it anyway. But I'm not saying don't always. You can't be rigid, right? Sometimes
That's right.
it is really awesome to trade. Yeah. Sometimes you're just stuck on the wrong side and you have to contest it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just asking how consistent that is. And again,
I really struggle with communication in those times. Sometimes I just want to screw with them. And it's so hard to communicate what you want to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you don't want to overcommit, but you just want to mess with them a little bit. Yeah.
Like so many times where I'm like playing...
And you guys are playing range champions. The poor male, like the ambassador and stuff, they're like, oh, I'm being and I just got to go in, right? This is what this guy wants. Yeah. It's hard to communicate those.
It's very, very difficult because there's a fine line between like trying to min-max your output in those scenarios as gaslighting your team and kind of influencing through your body language that you want to go for the fight.
Yeah, again, ideally it's like you type in the chat like a lot of time with just poke, right?
Or
like,
slow. I type in
slow.
Like,
single word slow is good. Yeah,
like that would happen a lot with Baron fights and stuff.
You have to proceed with caution, though. I agree.
It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, you could just you find 3v5, 4v5, you could just lose instantly.
Yeah, you ruin the game for sure.
Yeah. So I have a topic here, Curtis, about a coaching session that I had this week. A jungler coming back he hasn't played for like the last 6 weeks or whatever. And it's funny, me talking about the game now, my feel of the game. I want to get your guys' takes on this. You know, at the beginning of the season, like 6 weeks ago, it's like, oh my God, Atakhan, no one knows how to play around it. The game's all chaotic. Do you feel that the games are just like way back to just structured gameplay now? And it's just everyone's more relaxed and the game just feels like last season completely. Like, or do you think Atakhan and the whole Herald thing has again made the game really fast and chaotic? Because I generally, all the, you know how we said that the objective things about the next objective, I still find there's big periods of time where there's like nothing to do. Like have you noticed the 21 to 25 minute mark? It sometimes feel really weird. Like there's like 2 or 3 minutes sometimes when there's no dragon up. Atakhan's gone. It's like what do we do? You know, and have you guys noticed that?
Okay,
do you guys think it's still really, really as crazy as it was 6 weeks ago? Because we're like talking about feats of strength and stuff, and I said, do you guys even think about feats of strength?
Curtis has done a lot of work in neutrals at the moment, so I'll let Curtis.
Yeah. All right. So the way you want to view it is that half, maybe. Okay. So the higher elo community, I would say Diamond Plus has a pretty good understanding, I think, of how to play around Atakhan. I think if you're coaching a Diamond Plus VOD, for the most part, they know you can't really rush Atakhan. It's a hard neutral to get. People just sometimes don't even get it. It's a luxury, right? So you get that. Below Diamond, I would say Emerald and below, maybe low Emerald, maybe Plat, whatever, somewhere around there. There comes a point where the people in this elo bracket just don't understand Atakhan. They don't know what to do still. They simply don't know what to do. And I've had many review sessions recently in that elo bracket, Platinum, Gold, just around there, where the games are griefed because when Atakhan spawns, everyone loses their mind. People are spam pinging it. People are rushing it. People are trying to overforce it. People are overwhelmed, and games are thrown left, right, and center, and the game turns into an absolute shit show. And I've personally, as a coach, found it a lot more challenging to coach mid-game this season more than any other season because of, not because it's actually hard to know what to do individually.
Like, it's adapting to your teammates' chaos.
It's adapting to the teammates, because
so many variables.
Your teammates are griefing a lot.
What are the junglers doing?
Yeah, just get panicking.
I think it's like a lack of ability to trade the objectives. That's what I see a lot in those ranked games, Curtis. Everyone wants to contest every objective, and they think Atakhan equals GG.
No, maybe you're right. I would say for me, people are just still thinking that Atakhan is more like a dragon than a baron. Just very simply. They think that it's
even now.
I did a review this morning.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
People are still not viewing how difficult it is to get Atakhan, and then people are slowly cutting on. I said, like in the high brackets, people get it. Emerald, people are slowly getting it. In platinum and gold, they're not getting it. And so what happens? It's actually very simple. What you need to do. This is I'll just give the audience just a really generic, helpful advice. You shove mid, you get as much control as you can, and you get your side laners back into the side lane. Pretend it doesn't exist.
Yes.
That's it. And then if the enemy start it, great. Screw with them on it. You never want to be the team that is starting the Atakhan. If your team starts Atakhan...
and everyone's alive,
or even if one or two people are dead, still, you can't do it. If they have... I had a game I reviewed today where the enemy had someone dead, I think 2 people dead, but they burnt their ultimates. They're on the Atakhan, and then the enemy, like Corki and Zyra, just like push them off of it. They can't do it because of the terrain and how much damage you take.
I feel like that is true, but don't you think that there are situations where you can push lanes deep and then start the objective? Like you can with Baron.
No.
There is, but that's a very push.
I would say
you have to have full vision.
I'm thinking of games where I'm quite ahead. I've taken the T2 tower mid. I've pushed the wave in deep.
Yeah, it's very deep.
Very deep. Like,
I would say so.
Yeah, you can, but I would say that's in gold and platinum.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen.
No, they're not pushing that deep.
In Diamond Plus,
this is true. Yes,
in Diamond Plus, because people, shoving out waves properly and stuff. But
also in high elo, they've been pushing deep. They already know they've lost Atakhan. They're already trading it off.
And also, I think that baked in that as well, Charlie, is that there is a perceived threat of like baiting Atakhan. So they won't just randomly run in. They're like hesitant. Oh, they're baiting it. They're even on it. Whereas in the lower elo brackets, they're just going to run to it.
Yeah, it's the idea of using Atakhan as a tool to make the enemies face check the jungle.
And that's very, very, very will basically never happen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right?
Yeah,
so like, I just think for now, if you're in gold and platinum, your mindset should be, it's going to be a shit show. People are going to force it, ping back, even to the extent of sometimes even letting your team die, and use it as an opportunity to get really far ahead and farm. And doesn't matter what champion you're playing in a mid lane and top lane, just get to the side lane. And if you can just be not the person who's starting it, you're going to step in the right direction. But Diamond Plus, people are getting it. So to answer your question in a long-winded way, I would say, again, depends on the elo bracket.
Depends on the rank. And what about feats of strength? Is that something you guys think about in your own games, or or people ask you questions or whatever?
I think about first tower quite a bit. I mean, obviously you don't really have much control over the first kills, is what it is. But I do think about first tower. I would say that sometimes I will delay swapping mid as an AD carry if I want to get first tower bot, if it's still available. I'll be more open to the idea of swapping mid earlier sometimes if the mid tower is low, so I can just take it with my mid laner. So I think as an AD carry, I actually have a lot of control over that first tower.
You do. That's a good thing. That's actually a thing where AD carries have a bit of power over. Because as a jungle, I'm sort of adapting to the first tower, like how my top of my bot's doing.
I don't think about it.
Same with swapping for grubs and getting that other feat, the one of the objective feat. I had a game this morning actually. It was a high rank game, and me and the enemy AD carry both ran to the grubs at 11 minutes. It was a 5v5 in the grubs at 11 minutes because one of them had 2 stacks of the feat. It was hilarious. It was like I was playing Tristana, they were playing Samira, and we just fought 5v5.
There you go, dude. Now AD carries have the most control of the game. People have been complaining. There you go, the feats. Because for a jungler, I tell people you just have to play just normal structure. You can't think about it. Like a lot of the time, it's just an objective trade in the early game. If you're weaker or stronger, like the enemy top lane as priority, whatever, you have to go trade the dragon, or you might just get double objective sometimes. Like you don't have much control, honestly, over the feats of strength. Like that's what the person came in. She asked me in the coaching session, like, "Oh, Nathan, I made this decision because of feats," and I was like, well, we're skipping camps for it. It's not a high percentage dragon. Like, what are we doing here? This is not good, and it's not good. Regardless,
it's a bonus. I will say.
It's just more of a bonus.
The first tower was good without feat contesting grubs on a good timer was good before feat. It's just like an added incentive to go
Yeah,
through. So
I
I'm
see.
not ruining the game to
Ruining
do
the
this
game
stuff.
for it. That's
but,
right. No,
but
you're
it
not
is an
ruining it
added
for
bonus.
feats.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the strength. And also with tier 3 boots, by the way, when do you buy them?
I don't buy them. I buy them very, very late in the game. I don't think they're good. I think
After
they're good
third item?
They're really good for supports because they're very cheap and it's a
see.
stat stick for supports.
And you don't
I've
finish
noticed.
your items anyway. Like the game's
That's
like,
right.
I think Andy always says like, you're only getting 1-2 item max anyway, right? So you just get the...
Yeah, getting the steel caps upgrade or the merc treads upgrade on like a rel or something is insanely
Mercs
good.
are so expensive.
Yeah, dude, they're so expensive,
I
right?
literally looked.
I always think like, I hope I'm getting value for this. Like,
They
I'm
are
like,
so
it feels good when I buy it though, because I've been playing Graves and
1,300 gold.
and Pabu tells me that he loves Mercs. He goes Mercs a lot of time on Graves.
Is it 1,300 gold?
I look. It's 1,300 now, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So, because if I just have the normal boots, 300, it's 1,000.
1,000 gold.
Expensive.
Wow.
Am I getting my money's worth? I just
Getting
built
ripped
it.
off.
I hope I'm getting my money's
I mean,
worth.
it's good because they are game changing. Mercs are game changing.
They're pretty good, right?
In a good game, they are game
Yeah.
changing. But like, holy shit! I remember I was looking at it. I'm like, I want boat mercs. Like 1,300. I'm getting ripped off here. I need a bargain. This shit.
It's inflation, dude.
Inflation, right? It's affecting all of us. Yeah, it was. Yeah, expensive.
All right, Curtis, school post?
Yep.
All right. So, our school post of the week. If you want to join our school community, it's free. It's in our YouTube description. Skool.com/We Will Teach You League. This one here comes from Anmi. The title of this email is Variance in Room for Error. From my recent reviews, love that he is reviewing his games. That's a big plus from us at the Broken by Concept universe. I found my games can have massive differences in terms of how many how big mistakes I can make without impacting game results. In some games, I made absolutely terrible plays multiple times and I still won. In other games, I made one moderate-like mistake and it screwed the game. That's it. It looks like the room for error or tolerance for error can be very different from game to game. I'm wondering if this is a thing, or if I just haven't identified all the missed opportunities / mistakes. I suppose I'm not talking about the guaranteed win / guaranteed loss sort of rules. In by no means looking to take free wins or free losses without my own effort. I will try hard every game. I would just like to understand how tough I should be to myself. For example, should I bear in mind how much room for error that I have when I play? And if there's a way to tell in game whether I'm allowed to make an error or two, or I must keep up playing like watertight all the way through. Very good question.
Very good question.
Love this question.
And Charles, you actually mentioned something today that you wanted to talk about, which is one fight losing you a game.
Yes.
So I guess we'll palm this off to Charles first. You kind of had this experience recently.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the way that the game is, and maybe this is because of the objectives, Nathan, tying back to what you were saying earlier, but like, I just like the idea of the mindset of one fight losing you a game. Not even if it does, but just pulling up the review and just knowing that, okay, if I can just isolate this one fight and find out how I can play my character better in this fight and just learning from that, you can walk away from the game feeling good because at least you know one thing you can take accountability for. You've got like a baseline. Oh, this is my level of play on my character. Here's what I should be doing. I have clear steps to fix that and just move on. And it's more of a mindset. Like, it can also be the case actually where a fight can lose you the game, and that does happen. But yeah, I just think like, especially coming from an AD perspective, just thinking about your ability to dodge skill shots, hit your own skill shots, your positioning, your target selection, threat assessment. These things are really apparent in skirmishes. So yeah, I would just put a lot of my attention there and be comfortable just looking at one fight, saying you lost the game off it and moving on to the next game. I think it's really good.
Yeah, even though that's not true, I think it's a
mindset.
It's a mindset. And I mean, this is where there's in a review, right? That's my mindset, my approach to learning the game. It's just a quick, clean way to just take learnings, not overcomplicate the game and just beat yourself up because I'm making 100 different mistakes.
And get reps in as well. It allows you to move on fast. Complete that learning cycle and get more games in because that's what you need, repetitions.
So the reality is that when you develop a very sophisticated understanding of League and compositions, you can objectively tell the amount of room for error you have in a particular game. I can tell you with 99% accuracy, if I look at a game, a particular game state, can you afford to die in this game? Yes or no? And how that's going to affect your game.
It depends on champion as well. So I've made a Graves guide. You've made a Jace guide. Certain champions, there's very little room for error for champions that have zero utility compared to maybe like a Zac or something like that.
It also depends on the type of Graves game though, Nathan.
It depends on the comps.
Yeah,
exactly.
The
comps as well. Exactly right.
It's so many variables, right? If we're going to get specific, It depends on the champ that you're playing. It depends on the comps that you're playing with and against. It depends on the game state. It depends on objectives and the time of the deaths and the error.
Who gets kills?
Who's
kill? Strong? Who's weak? Yeah.
And what did they get for that kill? Did you get the wave? You died, but you already got the wave, so you didn't lose much. There is so much there, as you can probably tell. So the reality is that the average person isn't able to gauge
how big their
impacts.
mistake was.
Yeah, they're not going to have the game knowledge. So for all intents and purposes, that's where I think Charlie and Nathan's kind of comment there about just like, treating these major, skirmishes or errors as quite significant, regardless of whether or not it actually loses you the game or not. Take the learnings and then move on. And over time, as you develop a more, deeper understanding of the game, you will start to pick up trends. For example, even just pattern recognition. In games where I feel like I have a big bounty and I die, the game feels really hard. That's a great, general heuristic that you could follow that, typically if you have a big bounty, you don't want to die. Or another one is I typically don't want to die in the mid to late game stages because they could turn that pick into a Baron or an Atakhan. Or, I'm the main Fed member on my team. Everyone else is struggling. I'm the main Fed member. Okay, if I make a mistake, it's probably going to be very impactful. So these are some of the sorts of things that you can kind of use some common sense to help you gauge the level of impact of the mistake.
Another one is like coaching helps with this, but also just getting help from friends as well. Because I remember vividly, Curtis, there was a moment where it was earlier this year. I was winning lane a lot, but I was like struggling to translate. And you just looked at my gameplay and said, like, Charlie, you're winning, but you have no dragons. You know what I mean? So I think that a common trend as well is from bot lane perspective, or just overall, really, if you're winning the game, but you notice you get to mid game and you're like down 2 dragons, just investigate. Yeah. Find out why that is.
And like, I think here as well that there is this kind of common topic that gets brought up in this is the whole thing about taking too much accountability. And I do get nervous sometimes when people they get introduced to our our podcast in the Skool community, where they get all excited. I want to take max accountability and max responsibility, but then they lose their minds a little bit because every little thing that happens in the game, they're thinking, what did I do? And that
lose so much confidence.
You lose a lot of confidence. So I feel as though you need to really, I would say this is where you're going to employ common sense. At the end of the day, if you are in, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, you don't need to take accountability for every single thing that's happening in the game. Your job is to solve the big 20%ers. You're dying in lane, that's probably a big problem. You're losing that big team fight, that dragon fight, that's probably something worth investigating. You don't need to nitpick. You don't need to go to the ends of the earth to try and get learning. So I would say use some common sense there. What else, Nathan? Anything else here?
I think that answers it quite well. All right, mailbag time. Away we go. Song. Alrighty then. Our first question here comes from another Andrew, or could be the same Andrew. I'm not sure.
Oh, it could be.
This is the Andrew episode. The title of this email is Learning the Melee Life. Hi, Curtis, Nate, and Charlie. I've been an MLA member for 4 months or so, and I've been playing since season 2. Is this the same one?
No, I don't think so.
Thank God. I picked up Ari as my MLA approved champ and had a really rough initial 200 games, owing to some assumptions I had. I've been playing PC games since I was a kid and peaked in season 14 for the first time. I'd expected to drop down when learning Ari to silver, maybe bronze, but I thought I would get back to roughly where I was quickly. Neck minute, I'm in iron, struggling with a 42% win rate. I watched a lot of BBC and thought I understood accepting your level of play, but I was wrong. Sure, I had played for a long time, played PC games, and had been platinum, but here's my real backstory. I've played PC games since I was a kid, but almost never played online multiplayer. I was plat, but as support. I've been gold mid, but only with Annie. My most played champs are Annie, Fiddle support, Cheesy, various enchanters, I know, and a Mumu jungle. Never played a champion with a dash, never played melee, and never played skill shot heavy champs for any significant time. My narrative/history had an unreliable narrator, and once I accepted I was an iron player and essentially had never played League properly, only then did I start improving. Not that it matters, but I'm silver 1 now with a 53% win rate and feeling good. Shout out to Jamie for a great review that made me go from dreading some matchups to being hungry to have them simply by shifting my focus. When I go back to Annie now, if Ari is banned or if Yasuo needs a curb stomping, I find that I'm way better with her as a result of my Ari learnings despite their different playstyles. My question is, do you think it's worthwhile learning the melee life to bring a better understanding of the game like learning Ari did? Learning it to a significant degree, not just trying it for a bit? Or is this a waste of time if I don't intend to have a melee champ in my pool at all? By the way, P.S. Charlie is the best addition to something since aircon in cars.
Oh, wow, that's a great
Wow,
compliment.
thank you very much.
Yeah, look, real short. I don't think you need to. No, I think, it can be helpful. But I feel like if you're not really you're not really kind of inclined to want to play an assassin or a melee, I wouldn't bother. I would just spend that time diversifying other mages. There are so many mages that can teach you so many differing aspects about the game. For example, you have Talia and Swain and Victor, and then you have all these mages, Aurora. They all do so many different things and teach so many different skills. So yeah, you don't need to go into melees to learn the mid lane role to a high level. But yeah, I think what I like about this post is that it really gets into the details of the background.
Yes.
Because it's like we could have easily sent a post that said, I was platinum, now I'm iron, or I was this rank, now I'm this, without any context. But it's like, how did you get that rank? What did you play in that role? And here he's actually kind of peeled back all the layers, peeled back all the bullshit. And then when you see it for what it is, it's not that unbelievable. It kind of makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. So this is a great example of when people drop this much. Like, this is the story. Like, I mean, obviously, Crawley or Andrew here has listens to the podcast and he's very honest with himself about his journey. That's very rare that we're not going to see that from someone outside BBC. So this is an example of what it looks like. Yeah. This is what happens when there's massive drops.
It's so hard for people to peel back these layers, though.
Absolutely.
It's easier said than done.
It breaks most people.
Yeah, it breaks a lot of people. Yeah. They would rather live in that kind of delusion and hiding rather than and stay at a low elo bracket rather than change. Like, I had a review with a client recently and I just roasted him because I had to get him to wake up, because I knew that if I didn't wake him up, he would be living in that delusion forever and he would never climb. No tips I gave him about the game were going to make him any better at the game of League of Legends. He had to, he fundamentally was blaming teammates. That's it. Just flat out. He felt like he was a victim every game. He felt as though he was the best player in every lobby and that he was playing perfectly and his teams were grieving him. And I'm like, mate, you're the same level of play. You're just highlighting their weaknesses. You're also making plenty of errors. Until you choose to wake up and actually see how you're contributing to a game and actually look at the positives of what your teammates are doing and actually be empathic, you're not going to go anywhere because you can't be curious. You can't actually begin the problem-solving process. And I think this is a great example of that. Just accepting your level of play, accepting your rank. You don't deserve anything. The system always works the way it is, and that's hard. Easier said than done.
I want to talk a bit about the melee versus range and like those play styles. So funny this post, I've been learning Graves and sort of playing the fights a bit more like an ADC. Now, Graves isn't fully like an ADC, but he's like very different from, I've been a melee player, champion my entire 10 years. And this was very hard, me learning range and playing fights this way. Like, I literally completely entered 38% win rate on like an Emerald account, right? Just now I'm starting to get to it. It took me like 40, 50, 60 games, I think it was. And I guess people could say, well, that's, pretty quick and you started to get the hang of it. I probably still would probably at maybe a mid-diamond level in terms of my fighting as a range player. For you, Charles, you went from, you were a pure ranged person going to melee and now you're back to range. Did you struggle to learn melee?
Oh, I mean, Nathan, my gaming history is as complex as it gets, though. I've started the game in late season 1, season 2. I played every single role. Yeah, I mean, I would say intrinsically I'm a better melee player than a range player, honestly. I think I've reached the highest rank playing champions like Viego, Wukong, Vi, stuff like this.
And playing engage supports, like getting in there,
Playing
right?
engages, yeah. I played engage when I played support. I barely played range champions at all. But it's a complete mindset shift for sure. I mean, the way you think about ability usage, the way you think about your health bar as a resource, all these things definitely is different. It's a massive mindset shift, 100%. And I think it makes sense to be hundreds of LP better at one than the other.
Yes.
And I think like mid laners and top laners and maybe some junglers, like you have to have a way more sophisticated understanding of both. Like not only playing them, but playing against them, right? Like a ranged top laner and a melee top laner have drastically different skill sets. Like I think like thinking back to my top lane journey, like I got fairly good at playing melee tops, but I was horrendous at playing ranged tops. It's a different game. Like League of Legends is like, it's like I'm thinking of like a Sega machine, and it's like a collection of different mini games, and we all get good at certain mini games, but no one's good at them all. And playing range top, melee top, playing engage support, 80 carry, even range mid, melee mid, just completely different games.
Do you have anything before a comment on that,
Oh,
Curtis?
yeah, I like that.
All right, our next question here comes from sincerely EX or X girlfriend maybe.
Oh.
Nathan.
What are you talking about? It could be to all of us. Sincerely EX.
But it's Nathan's mailbag.
It is
That's
Nathan's
true.
mailbag.
This is true. It could be. The title of this email is Wanting to Have a Crack at It. I love having a crack. It's what I'm all about and the podcast is all about. I've been trying to slowly but surely listen to each episode of the podcast. I would say so far I've covered about 1/3 of all episodes so far. I really enjoy listening to them as I get ready for work or during my commute. I really like the approach the BBC team has taken for coaching and mentality towards League. I've had so many things I wanted to try or do, yet I have put things off for months, if not years, and not even attempted them. This year, I want to invest in myself with hobbies and activities that make me happy instead of waiting. I started some passion projects like a new YouTube channel and finishing a few shows books throughout the month. Though there's something about League that makes me afraid. Like part of me wants to play until I hit my peak. Then there's another part of me that is insecure and feels like that if I try and fail, there will be nothing but disappointment left. Even though in other aspects of my life, I found it freeing to put effort into something, and I feel reassured that at that point in your journey, that was the best you could accomplish. I have played ranked on and off for years at this point, and I basically stopped playing the moment I hit some arbitrary goal. Hit gold, hit Emerald 4, and once I reached this random point, I just stopped playing for the season. In past seasons, I did some amateur league competition stuff for gold, plat, emerald players and found some additional fun and investment in the game by expanding my knowledge of other roles, drafts, and the team play aspects of League, though I'm not sure what my best step should be to improve individually. I've dedicated time into so many different characters as a top main, from my favorites like Camille, Aurelia, Swain, and Trinimir, to things like Fiora, Jax, Mordekaiser, Silas, Malphite, Mundo, Kled, Scion. I have very little idea of what I should prioritize in my pool or how flexible it should be. I am leaning towards the idea of specializing in Camille and Aurelia, then having Mordekaiser and Swain as my AP options, though I have not played much Swain with the new changes. My question is, what should I do for my approach for knocking out games? I know you often recommend 3 blocks or 2 blocks to most clients. For me, though, I find I have to go with a very fluid approach to the best quality games of me, where I may or may not be in the right mental state to play League on any of the work days, but knock out 3 to 8 games throughout the weekend. If I lose 2, I typically stop playing for a few hours or the rest of the day. If I'm in a good mood and playing well, I typically do not stop playing until I become tilted or have a really bad loss. Just wanting some direction. There's a couple of things here.
Learning to lose is what comes to my mind.
Was that your first thing?
Learning to lose. Especially how he ended that, where he says, I stop playing when I lose and I keep playing when I win.
I think that's the big theme in this one. What I at least take away from it is similar to Charlie. It's League becomes... Okay, in order to get the most out of League, it really boils down to breaking down the game, as Charlie was mentioning, in terms of mini games and solving miniature puzzles and getting learning. If you're not at least attempting to solve these situations and take learning from these kind of unique experiences, what's going to happen is that you're just going to... It's not to say you can't improve, but it won't be an overly satisfying journey because you're not really going to understand what led to your rank, right? Because remember, guys, you can play a lot of League, climb, and get results. You can do that. You can not review a single game, and you can climb. That's just the way League is, because you're developing muscle memory, your intuition is evolving, you're learning your threat assessment, your limits, etc., etc., etc. But the problem when you do that, you're not getting as much out of your experience because you're not completing a learning cycle. You're just throwing shit at the wall and hoping things stick. And then what happens when you hit your plateau, you're kind of screwed because you don't really know how to unpack anything. So honestly, what's happened, I reckon, with this person is that they've set these arbitrary goals, they've hit these goals, but they're feeling like, oh, all right, that's it, I'm going to move on to the next game, because they haven't fully dedicated themselves to like actually getting into the details and figuring out why they've got that rank. What did they do well? And so I guess what I'm saying in a long-winded way is that League won't really feel overly fun and satisfying until you try to break things down. And this is why it sounds cliche, but focusing on the learning over the wins and losses, or how you win, how you lose, what were the quality of your decision making? Why did you lose that one and won that one? What was why did this lane felt really good and that lane felt terrible? Why were you up 20 CS this game and down 20 CS in this game? What actually happened? And until you're attempting to solve these questions, you're kind of just going in circles, and you can play and you can climb, but it's just not overly satisfying.
In essence, for me personally, and you guys might be the same, when I'm coaching people, what I'm trying to really do is give them the tools to understand the game themselves, that they don't need me, right? Like, these are the tools. This is how you can review a game. Yes, I'm there to help you and you can keep coming back to me. But that's what I feel like I'm trying to get across. Like, I don't really care about breaking down the situation, being all the theoretical stuff. Like, I just want you to just understand what's going on, because then League becomes fun.
It's fun.
Then it's really fun, because the moment, like, this is where people quit, because they just don't know what's going on. There's just so random inconsistency. They're playing like a psychopath.
That's where the inconsistency comes from. Yeah. That's where all these problems. How many games should I play? What champ should I play? When should I? What rank should I? What goal should I have? That stuff is irrelevant. You need to figure that out yourself. You need to first have make that decision. Do I want to get into the details and problem solve shit or not?
Be a student of the game.
Be a student of the game or not. And if you're not going to be a student of the game, you're probably just not going to have a ton of fun. It's not going to be overly satisfying. And there's probably many other hobbies that you should engage in. That's just the reality.
I think another thing that stands out to me from this, which you're passionate about as well, Nathan, is like the idea that improvement in League of Legends is going to be getting to a plateau, being absolutely stuck in the mud, rethinking your whole existence, rethinking what the hell you're doing here, getting help, and then getting unstuck, maybe getting someone to help your car out of the mud, and then boom, you keep going for a bit, and then you plateau again further down the road. And just, it seems like if you just get to a certain point and then you quit, you probably reach your first plateau and you're like, good enough. But to improve at League, you have to be comfortable with the idea of plateauing, struggling, and overcoming.
And that's the skill. That's the cool part about League, because League is the ultimate gaming challenge. It will push you to your limits mentally. And that's the beauty about that compared to other hobbies. Like, sitting there, I mean, I'm not discounting other hobbies, but let's say if you're cooking, right? Like, do people get pushed mentally? Like,
Mr. Cooking? Uber Eats talking about cooking.
Like, I guess if you
got to stay in your lane.
Yeah, what the hell?
Okay, I'm stopping there.
Stop there.
But it's a competitive game, right?
I see where you're coming from, but I think it's more
unless you're on a show like MasterChef or something like that.
Yeah, you know? MasterChef is not the same as just cooking a healthy meal for the family.
But this is why, when I get questions like, yesterday I was Emerald 50 LP and now I'm Emerald 40 LP. Oh gosh darn it. It's like, you're just not getting it. No. You're just not getting it. I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm just, really I'm here. I'm going to be helping you, and I'll do what I can. But you're just.
It's so sad to see those posts. It's like, this is my progress for this day. I've gone down in LP.
It's just, I just want to wake you up.
What are we doing here?
What are we doing here? Like, and then I feel, we feel, all of us, I'm assuming, feel the same way. It's like, we feel kind of guilty for saying the same. I mean, at least for me, I feel like, oh my God, is this guy just going to, blow his brains out because I'm just going to say the same thing? I'm going to say, well, Abby, what did you take away from these games? Because I'm trying to,
learn to understand the game. That's what you're trying to do. You want to get them to understand the game.
I don't give a shit how much LB you fluctuate, nor should you. I don't walk away from a block being, gosh, I know I'm down 74 LP. I don't care. What happened in those games?
Get specific.
Like, that is what makes League fun. Period. And if you say otherwise, right, people can say, but because I have fun by, win-walling shit on Yasuo. Okay. That's not sustainable. It won't last. You can have fun with that in the short term. You know what I mean? But it won't generate a healthy relationship with the game in the long run or nor sustain results.
Is that what someone said to you before? I like blocking things with
No, I'm just pulling shit out of my ass.
I've heard some weird stuff, mate.
Is that right? Well, why they love the champion.
Yeah. I think something that's interesting, Curtis, that I've actually been doing very intentionally in my reviews recently is I'll look at a sequence and I'll just ask them, like, how would you review this? And I'll just get them to tell me how they would review it. And then oftentimes I'll just agree, yeah, good review. Let's move on. Keep them in that mindset of like just thinking about the game. So
I don't know what we can say to this person outside of you just got to, whatever process you feel is comfortable for you, great. Whatever goal you feel excites you, great. And we encourage you to say yes to all of that. It doesn't really matter what champ you play. Do what you think is correct and what motivates you. But the key thing is just stop focusing on the wins and losses and just don't even worry about a goal. Just get good at try to have a crack at solving problems.
Be a student of the game.
Be a student of the game.
The Nathan Mott classic that I love, I always tell people, when you wake up in the morning and write at the computer, you got to mentally prepare yourself to go 0-3 in your block.
Love it. Absolutely. All right. Our next question here comes from Dennis. Hi, Nathan and Curtis. So the title of this email is Need Help. And it's quite short. I've played League for about 10 years and I'm struggling for the past 2 years. I've been consuming as much educational content as possible and it has gotten me from Gold 4 to Emerald 4. The journey has not been easy. The first time I made it to Emerald, it took me 2 games to demote and I didn't stop losing until I got back to Gold 2. I climbed back up to Emerald 4 again, but I'm scared to get into a loss streak again. This season I started listening to the BBC podcast and joined the Support Academy. I haven't gotten the courage to ask for a VOD review yet because of anxiety issues. I thought I could start by emailing you guys for advice. Here's my OPGG. I know Senna is not an approved champion, but she's my favorite and by far the champion I have the most mastery on. I look forward to
This is actually a really common, believe it or not, I genuinely didn't know how common. This is a really common thing.
What?
People are scared to get reviews.
Yeah, of course.
They overthink what
is a good game to bring.
What's a good game to review. Or they're just nervous. They're like, oh my God, like what are they going to say? And I understand that. I think it is a bit of a daunting experience. And my advice all the time is it's kind of like you got to just like be brave for that one thing. And when you get that first session, it will be like, oh.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
It wasn't that bad. It's
That's
like when you're scared of getting a needle or whatever. And then like you do it, it's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Or like you go on a roller coaster, same thing. So you just got to have that courage to just send it. And your mindset should be, this is probably going to be the shittest session ever. For all intents, it's like kind of what you were saying before, Charlie, about, okay, I'm just going to go 0-3 this block. Like, expect that that's the baseline, then work backwards. And if you have that mentality, a lot of the time, it's like, great, we have a great session. We have a great chat. We'll set you some with beautiful learning objectives. You've got Coach Andy helping you out. We're going to help you. You'll be happy. You'll be glad you did it.
I don't know about you guys, but I love seeing first time review in my channel and I know that person's recently joined. I'm like, that guy's just attacking. Like he doesn't give a shit about, because sometimes joining our academies can be intimidating. And I mean, MLA has like 1,400 members. You're just in this, they just don't care about any of it. Just tell me what's going on with like game plan. Let's get into the details. I get so excited about that all the time when I see the first. And then when I see someone first time review and it's like I've seen them around, they've talked in the chat a lot, but they've not got a review. That's a bit concerning to me. I'm like, why is it taking you so long?
And you got to remember, like, we're so experienced as coaches. Like, even if you pick the most terrible VOD, just by the VOD you choose, the language you use, and the champ you're playing, like, we could basically tell you highly likely what learning objectives you need to focus on anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we can give you learning objectives that are going to be hyper relevant and get you starting on your journey on the right track, regardless of what VOD you bring.
The VOD is a start. I would say.
Yeah, that's right.
The review is not the end.
People think that that's it. It's like that, and that's the end, and then that's it.
Because
like,
we can't solve all your problems from one game anyway.
No.
But we will know, based off what we see, where you need to be directing your attention.
Yeah.
And we'll get that process.
And then you can start thinking a certain way, come back in a few weeks, and maybe we can get more intense the next time.
It's an iterative process.
Also, the first review is like just to calm your nerves a little bit potentially, like you're going to have time to speak your mind. There's going to be time to have a discussion, to understand your gaming background, what you're here for, where you're coming from. We're not just going to look at your gameplay like the robot, like, oh, you should have hit this CS or gone roam on this terrible.
That's not really what we do.
We're gonna start a relationship hopefully, and start a situation where we can understand why you are where you are, what you need to do, and just go from there.
I always like to say that the first review is like a dentist checkup. Like we're not we're not doing crazy root canals. We're not, doing this, let's just check up, make sure we're brushing, we're flossing, brushing our teeth, just doing the basics, jungle tracking and, getting back to camps and spawn and stuff like that. And then we can later down the track, we can,
I'll end your review next week.
Yeah, we can do it. We can do a root canal.
What's the equivalent of the root canal?
Yeah, that's when we get into the review. That's serious.
So you can gank bot at 2 minutes 30, you're out of here.
The more reviews that you get and the higher rank you are, the more brutal I'll be with you. Like we're doing some serious, like we're ripping out teeth.
Screaming.
Just to teach him a lesson, we'll forget to use the anesthetic.
It's like when I get like maybe some of our diamond players, it's like, they've been in the program for months or whatever. It's like everyone's in the waiting room because everyone's like watching and they hear the screams in that room, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it's like. That's going to scare off a lot of people to my coaching sessions. But no, it's all friendly, happy, chappy.
That's actually true though. With all like OG clients, you've worked with a lot. We rip them to shreds.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
I always think it's like they're going to leave now. It's done. You know?
They should know better than to bring this VOD. That's what I think sometimes. Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, I had one this week, and I said, what's going on? You're lying to me. You're bringing me like literally just flat out. You're like literally you're trying to trick me. Yeah,
if you did this every game, you'd be winning.
Exactly right. It's like, okay, I literally just said to him, like, how are you lying to me? How are you tricking me? Right?
No, I do feel as though coaching sometimes it's like a psychiatrist or like they're lying down on the couch. And like they're trying to you have to get them to open up. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
It takes time to build that, to get them to actually open up, and then it's like, now the demons are coming out. Now it's like,
no, tell me how you really feel. Like, show me the real VOD.
Yeah,
show me the real
you. You know what I mean? And you can kind of see like things pop out. Like you see them like type something in chat.
Yes.
It's like, it's coming out.
Coming out. Yes.
And then you can know like what you're working with.
My favorite is when they're like, the lane went well. I just want to look at the mid game, and then you look at the match history. It's like 7 out of 10 games the lane is not going well.
No,
it's like, let's look at those, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's look at one of the ones where the lane doesn't go well.
Most of my first time reviewers, that's what they say. By the way,
very common.
My problem is mid game, not early game, and then we just go absolutely into the details. And literally, there's like 5 major learning objectives in the early game. It's like insane. Because it's not consistent. Because they think they're getting. It's like the earlier conversation. They're getting away with things. And then they're just not. It's not consistent.
Yep. If you make it to mid game in a Nathan Mott review, you're doing something very well.
Yes, absolutely.
Probably scaring this person off from getting a review again, but
yeah,
that's okay.
Well, we're not speaking for Andy, right? He's a Dennis here as a support.
Nah, Andy's pretty brutal as well.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Good. That's what we wanted.
No, I say brutal. He focuses on what's important.
That's right.
Good. I like
that. The last thing I'll say here about the Emerald 4 plateau. It's such a common plateau because this is when the game gets really hard, man. And a lot of people just think that what they did to get from silver to gold and platinum, like that, can be sometimes, especially certain players with certain gaming backgrounds, all sunshine and rainbows. But Emerald, you're pretty high up in the percent of the player base. What is it, like top 10, top 15% or whatever? Top 10%, I think. This is when you got to really start focusing and looking at the little details. Like it's the hill where so many people die in League. Emerald 4 specifically, not Diamond 4 because that's already really high up the mountain. Most people die on the Emerald 4 hill.
Yeah, good time to get coaching, I would say.
Yes,
it is.
I mean, that guy was Emerald 4 that first post.
Yep,
he said he was Emerald 4, right? And that little turn thing in that post helped him get to Diamond 4. That's the sort of way you need to start thinking about the game. Not running around killing everyone and all that sort of stuff. All right, well, that wraps up our episode today, guys. Episode, was it 238?
Yep.
Good work, guys.
Is it 228, 238?
238.
238.
Good work, guys. Let's keep on improving 3-block process. We'll see you guys in episode 239.